This is part 2 of 3 of the timing belt replacement series. You could look at the remarks section in the about area to find links to part 1 and part 3. Now that the lower timing belt cover's off, you can see how bad the water pump was leaking out of the weep hole and how loose the shaft on it is. So, water pump's about to come apart. And here's the new one, here's the old one, and the old one has some kind of spring that I'm going to have to transfer over to this new one. Now, on your new one, as you can see when I try to spin it, it doesn't really turn, it's nice and tight. And on this old one, I can spin it, and it'll actually make noise. Hold this camera here for a second. When you hear that noise, you know that don't have much longer to last before it'll fall apart. Alright, so if this spring, you pry this out with the screwdriver and put it over here, and then we'll figure out how to get it on the vehicle. So I went ahead and I pried that off of the old one, and I got it on the new one. Now I'm going to look in there and see how it goes. This is the seal we picked up from Pep Boys. And like I said, I'm going to pull it out of the box, make sure it's going to fit in that hole. Alright, my new seal looks like it will fit in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the old one out. And this is the box from the replacement crank seal. That's the number on it there. It's the information on the back of it, so if you need to match it up, that's the seal. Alright, I like to use these self-tapping screws. The longer the better. I could only grab these short ones real quick. So I'm going to screw them into the seal and pull the seal out with pliers. Now pay attention to how the seal is oriented in there so you can get it back in there right, and it looks pretty much flush with the motor and the shaft. Now I hope oil doesn't come pouring out of here. It shouldn't, but I'm going to put a catch pan under it just in case it does. Okay, I got the screw in there. Be careful you don't scratch the shaft coming out of the crank. Then of course the seal didn't want to come out, so let me work on getting this seal out and come back to you in a minute. Okay, I got the old seal out with that screw, and so I'm getting ready to lubricate the new seal and slide it in place. The flat part of the seal comes out, so there's some of the gunk that's built up under there with that seal leaking. This is the only time that I kind of wish I had this wheel off, because you got to look around that crank seal really good if you replace it. Make sure that it's on and it's smooth. On this top part over here at 11 o'clock, the seal was hung up a little bit and I had to work it in with the screwdriver. So you got to make sure that seal is in and seated right and smooth. Don't have any bumps or anything on it. Go ahead and remove the bolts from the water pump and remove the water pump. They're all 12mm bolts. Remember the location of that one there, because it looks like it also serves as a bracket screw for a cover or something. Okay, I got the water pump out. That's the hole that the water pump came out of. When I broke the water pump loose, a gusher came. So I'm glad I had the pan under it and it spilled some on the absorbent pad I have. Nonetheless, that's where I'm at. Clean that off a little bit, put the new water pump on. Okay, more challenges and more delays. The new water pump is Bosch. The original water pump is Aisin, or however you pronounce it. At any rate, the new water pump housing is thicker than the original water pump housing. So I would actually lose 2 threads on my bolts, which is something I didn't want to do. So these, I believe, are 8mm 1.25 thread count, 35mm long. So I went and found new bolts at Home Depot, which are 8mm 125 40mm. And then I got these bolts. For some reason they have a lock washer and a flat washer on them, so I went and bought washers as well so that I can install this water pump. The only problem is at this one location here, that bolt has some sort of receiver thread in there, I believe, for the cover. So that one's going to have to be the short one, and the rest of them are going to be the new longer bolts. So I got 5 bolts. I'm going to use an old one and go from there. So that's the position of that receiver. Now the old water pump was glued on, and I'm going to use the gasket that came with the new water pump, so I'm not going to glue it on. But I am going to scrape all that gasket material off of the block. So next up, scrape the gasket material off the block. Doesn't seem like a lot of gasket material. I'm going to use a razor blade and be careful not to scrape the block. Normally the block's pretty hard, so it shouldn't be bad. Okay, after I scraped it with a razor blade, I brushed it clean with a good quality wire brush. You don't want to use a cheap brush because you don't want the bristles coming off and getting in the motor anywhere. So there is the wire brush that I used. Now I'm going to set the water pump and seal in place and screw them in, and then stagger torquing them down. I don't know the proper torque value, but I'm probably going to torque them around 12 foot-pounds. Okay, I went around the bolts twice, torquing them. I actually went to 15 foot-pounds, and I did not use any gasket sealer. I never had one leak with using the paper gaskets. I think those gaskets may actually swell once they're hit by hot coolant. So no gasket sealer, torqued all 6 bolts crisscross, 15 foot-pounds. This concludes part 2 of 3. Please look at the about comments below to find links to part 1 and part 3. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.